The power being off is the current subject, and we know that the Minister for Power had announced various steps that had been taken in the short term to resolve, because we know that there are already medium to long term efforts to ensure that by the next 3 years we get power. But in the short term, we're supposed to have power badges, and the badges should be coming in once we have money put into an escrow account, 100 million we're being told and all. But in essence, the whole idea is to ensure that we have speedy resolution of the crisis. Do you think that the short-term approach we're using is the best way to resolve it, going for a power badge and things like that?
Doomso is
overwhelming now.
Yes, I think you can never go or say you're going to a radio station or a TV station
and not be asked about
not be asked to talk about Doomso, because it seems like, or it's not that it seems, it is the order of the day actually, and it is something that is actually disturbing the whole economy. Individuals are really suffering. Businesses are actually going down, and people are losing their jobs. So it is something that is worrying. Now, if you look at the short-term measure with the badges, I mean, that simply tells you that it's a generation problem. Yeah? I know that everybody's saying that we have more than we need, actually.
The capacity.
The capacity. 2,375 or something.
2,800, you always say.
Yeah, and it is more than we need. But if we should go for the badges, then it tells you straight away that it is actually a generation kind of problem, because that is what the badges will be doing anyway.
You put oil in them, or are they gas badges?
I don't really know. I'm not that technically inclined to actually know how the badges operate. But badges are basically to generate. Yeah. So it tells you that now we accept as a country that it's a generation problem. Having said that, I am always asking Ghanaians to look at it this way, that it has become a problem, a kind of problem that we should say to ourselves as Ghanaians that, look, the country is going through a phase. Let us actually put certain colors aside and look at it as a nation. And anybody at all who has any idea, anybody at all who has what it takes to actually help for us to come out of the doomsaw thing, should do that. If we look at it that way, then obviously we would achieve something. Because I know that for example, I just said that the badges to me tells us that it's a generation problem. Now, how are we going to make sure that in future we don't have this sort of problems? You look at it and you see that what government has been doing is actually invest more into power generation. I think in the last few years we've seen more than 600 megawatts add to the national grid. Contracts that have been signed, etc., is telling us that government is actually trying to add more generation capacity to what we have, so that in the future, or in future, we'll have what do you call it, power security. So all in all, I would say that, look, Ghanaians should look at it as a country going through a phase, and we should all calm down. We should all follow the timetable. Well, if it doesn't happen for you, you hope that it will happen for your area in the next day. And then when we look at it as a national kind of problem, that is where I believe that we can support the government to do more.
Good speech by Horace, but almost looking as if it's self-indicting, that we have a crisis based on a leadership inability in some respects.
Well, it's true. Everything that he has said is true. The economy is going down because of this energy crisis, and this is self-inflicted, because when the Akosombo was built, we had so much power, and all of it was supposed to have gone into industry, which we didn't even use. Because there were over 100 industries that were put up by the CPP
we didn't use adequately.
We didn't use, no, we didn't
because we had industries in Ghana.
Okay, the 100 or so industries that we had, that Kwame Nkrumah built, were left or sold off to private entities, used for different things. But all I'm saying is that previous governments, other governments coming in, did not actually do their homework well. They didn't add on, you know. It's just that the vision to at least increase the power, the energy. We're even, I mean, filling water. I haven't had water in my house for 3 months now.
Where do you live?
I live at Tajiringano. And I've never had water problems. I've called my MP. I've gone to water and sewage.
You buy tanker water?
Yeah, I've had to revert to buying tanker water. This is something that
that's not too bad. It means you can afford.
No, it's not a question of being able to afford. It's a need. Water is a necessity. And then I ask myself, what are we actually doing about water? We have estates coming up, booming everywhere. And you ask yourself, are we up to the task? You know, you should be
based
able...
on what demand?
Based on demand. We must be able to keep up. But what's happening is that we are allowing, you know, all these things to happen, and we sit and fold our arms and give it 2 or 3 years, and we start saying that there's no this, there's no electricity, there's no water. And then I keep asking myself, what were you doing? Didn't you know that your population was increasing, there was going to be extra demand? The same thing is happening to education. You understand? We wait for people to have their children, and then when there's no school, we now rush and then do shoddy work. I think that we should start thinking, you know, we should have plans, long-term plans, that would save this country. This energy crisis that we're having, yes, it is true, the president is doing so much. I mean, they're trying as a government to bring in extra support and all that. But did we have to wait this long? Because I'm asking, if we knew all this, that we could have signed certain documents, we could have gone into certain contracts that would have helped us in generating power. Why didn't we do it 2, 3, 4 years ago? And we wait till now when it's gotten to its peak where everybody is now suffering and we are now signing, waiting for 3 years. Are we going to survive the 3 years? Because people are losing their jobs. How are we going to manage for the next 3 years or so before this power is given us? So I just hope that at the end of the day, we will accept. It's good for the president to say, I take the blame. Yes, he has to take the blame because somehow he's the one who's in charge. But then we all as Ghanaians will have to also stop politicizing.
Okay, before I get to him, how do we need to be doing the communication? Because it's as if that the political elite seem to think that it's a government issue. The present government is the cause of the current crisis we have. But from all you're saying and that we've known for all this while, it's a decay of a sector that has been generated over decades.
Yes, it is. It has generated.
So Ghanaians need to understand that.
Ghanaians need to understand that. We have to communicate this to Ghanaians. And we all as a people will have to accept that it's all of us. We are all to blame. We misuse energy. Honestly, sometimes you enter an office, the air conditioner is on, no one is there. You have a small room with a big air conditioner. And look at us. Look at the way we are even putting up our structures now. You know, almost windowless structures. And all of it is depending on more energy. And we don't seem to understand that all this is going to affect us somehow. By all means, develop. But you don't develop at the expense of the quality of life of your ordinary...
You're saying air conditioning is not good? I think that brochure, so they use more air conditioning. They use heating systems, and that's energy.
Yes, they use heating systems. And that is why they build their homes small. Yeah, their bedrooms are small.
Really? They have mansions?
No. The mansions that you see is all concrete. The bedrooms are small to conserve energy. If I'm lying, Horace.
Oh, you're
Your
not
council
lying.
flat, will it be a big place? The rooms are small.
Britain,
You
they don't have...
No, I'm only
don't
saying.
say council. Britain, they don't have land.
They
so
don't,
use that one.
whether they
They
have
don't have
land
what?
or
They
not.
don't have land.
Whether they have land or not. You take a ride around colonial buildings in Accra.
Yeah.
When we had so much electricity, did we have air conditions? They built windows. Huge, long, beautiful windows. Now we don't have windows.
With high ceilings.
Yes, with high ceilings. You know, so you have
ventilation.
Ventilation.
Okay.
Your rooms are cool and everything. But now what are we doing? We're having glazed windows.
The economy is suffering, and you have made mention of the fact. How serious is the issue? Beyond the subject of saying, well, people are losing jobs.
It's serious.
Oh, I mean, if your economy is suffering, then of course, no matter how little it is, it's serious because you actually want to be growing as a nation. So you can't afford to be having a situation where industries are shutting down and people losing their jobs. But I'm happy, like my good friend said, Rodalyn said, it's all about also looking into the future. So who did not look into the future? At what particular epoch did we not tend to look into the future? That is the more reason why I am happy with the steps that President Mahama is taking, especially with power generation. Because if you look at what he's done in the last 2 years and also doing now in terms of generation, you could also say that he is trying to making sure
that at least by the next 10 years we're free.
By the next 10 years...
So it means that within that period also we have to
yes, you see,
think again for...
Yeah, it means that whoever comes, whether it's going to be him again or another person, will have to add on to. We have to continuously add on.
Because seriously, if you look at what he has actually added onto the national grid and the sort of contracts that have been signed and what is coming on board, you realize that obviously this is, let me say, a vision, isn't it? So that in future would have that security. I don't want to be politicizing things because for what it is now, it is a national challenge, and we should, whilst we are trying to blame somebody, we should also appreciate the efforts that are being made. I don't agree with President if President is saying that Ghanaians should blame him. I don't know whether he actually used that expression.
Yeah,
that,
he says he accepts.
Well, I think I think just a minute, please, if I can learn.
As a means of responsibility.
No, let me just learn. Can I learn? Thank you very much. That is the word that I'm looking for.
Well,
it is his responsibility. Now that shows a good leader. Every leader is responsible into resolving whatever crisis or whatever is facing his or her nation. You understand? But I think that we are misconstruing the whole thing and politicizing whatever we have to politicize and saying that, oh, I'm a penny crap or no fault. No. Look, even if you take the sort of, I'll go back there, the amount of generation capacity that is added onto the national grid in the last 2 years, you'd appreciate the fact that he's doing something. Now, we shouldn't misconstrue the fact that he's saying that he is responsible. He is responsible to solving the matter.
So blame him.
He is not, no, not blame him. He is assuring you that the doom.
The buck stops with me.
Yes.
And the
so I acknowledge.
Yes.
That and he's trying to do his best.
It is different from blaming.
No, but that is how he sees it. I mean, he says that he doesn't want to continuously play the blame game.
So he wasn't blaming anybody.
I think the two of you are saying the same thing.
Yeah, we're saying he's saying.
The two of you are saying the same thing.
Oh, is it the English language that is worrying us here?
No. It's not
blame and responsible.
I think you're just saying the same thing.
Are you sure that we're saying the same thing?
Do you think, okay, you're with the NDC, so let me ask you, do you think if, let's say, it was a CPP government or the MPP government, that very government would have faced the same thing? Because it's not something that happened 2-3 years ago. It's not a result of an inefficiency 2-3 years ago, but it's something that has happened for decades.
If you're asking me as a CPP person, I think we would not have gotten to this.
No, I'm asking you, supposing if you had taken the reins of
that's what I'm saying.
Governance in, let's say, 2012 or 2009.
We would not have waited for this kind of thing. If we had taken governance in 2012 or 2009...
You mean who? The CPP?
Yes, we would have. As a CPP government, we would have.
In the government.
Yes, we would have. We would have taken steps.
But I said, for example, the CPP...
Yeah, we would have taken steps. But we would have taken steps. You see,
for the CPP, you would have...
We would have taken steps. We believe in looking into the future because we believe that as a growing economy, every time you have to go long term.
If I may come in here, are we saying that...
No, I was painting a scenario.
Well,
because she said the current crisis we're having is a result or repercussion of inactions for decades. And I was asking, does it mean that if any political party was in power and it was not the NDC, they would still have faced the same problem because we didn't plan?
Yeah, but then I think there's a dichotomy to this in actions in which areas. Are you getting what I'm trying to say here? Because I believe that there have been some actions. In fact, if it were the CPP, NPP, or whatever, I mean, somebody would definitely come and tell you that, oh, at this particular time, yes, we did add to the national grid. what quantum of megawatts did you add to the national grid? You understand? During your time. So we don't need to be going into that. Otherwise, it will politicize the whole matter. Because I'll give you a clear example. If in 2 years, President Mahama has added, let's say, over 600 megawatts to the national grid, and our good friends in the NPP are saying that, oh, during our time, we did add 80. So you work the ratio. What do you do? 2 is to what? 600 equal what? 8 is to X. Yeah? So if you want to work the ratio, because you don't want to have the X as a denominator, because you couldn't have a variable as a denominator, yeah, you swap it. So when you work it, you have you have 2x equal 48,000.
You remind me of the president of the football.
That tells you that if you want to find x,
coefficients.
if you want to find
differentiation and calculus,
if you want to find x, that would be 4,800 divided by 2. Then it tells you that in an 8-year period, somebody should have added what? 2,400 megawatts.
Roland, at one stage in this country, so we thought that the Bui Dam
was enough. But we saw that there was no foresight in it.
That is it.
Now we see that it's no foresight because it's just.
At one stage in our country, we thought.
How do we call those a white elephant?
White elephant. It's become a white elephant because.
And it cost us $600 million.
That's it. And all that we were thinking was that, Bui Dam is going to settle everything. We did not.
And that was a mantra.
That's it.
Who was mentioning
it? We didn't even research. We didn't, because look, Bui Dam comes, MPP is taking credit for it. Then we said that, Kwame Nkrumah had machinery somewhere there.
So if Kwame Nkrumah was around, it would have been built perhaps in the 70s?
No, well, it should have been getting into the 70s. But whatever.
I'm saying that it would have been built in the
70s.
Yeah.
And not now. And then so
we're almost like 30 years behind.
That's it. And 30 years. And 30 years.
You needed to review.
You needed to review. And then now you look at, I keep saying, you look at the Volta. At that time, we didn't have Burkina Faso building a Bagre Dam. We didn't have our water bodies being clogged up. We didn't have all manner of human settlements around. So all these things affected the Bui Dam. But what happened? We just closed up and then all they did was, we are building the Bui Dam. So that we can also say we built the Bui Dam. And you built it, yes, but it's a white elephant. Now, so what the president is doing, you understand, you're saying it's a generation problem. I agree. I agree. Now we're talking of Akosombo, and then we're told that, look, with Akosombo, the water level, when it goes down, we're not able to generate enough. Then you ask yourself again, all these years, what have we done to salvage Akosombo from all these human activities that have been going around that is making the water level go down all the time? You see, human settlement and lack of maintenance.
But now we have agreed that complementing hydro generation is a key.
Yes.
And would you say that the efforts taken by the NDC administration led by John Mahama now could shore up the current deficit we have, perhaps from the next 3 years? Because realistically, when those facilities are built, after 10 years...
At what cost?
At what cost?
Hydro is always cheaper. When we start talking about...
But now it's very much unreliable, even around the world.
That's what I'm saying. It's unreliable around the world, and for us, I mean, we should have been able to at least hang on to it for a while. But now we are going to go looking for barges, and we are hoping that we'll get gas, and we're promised that when the gas comes, everything is settled. Then we are told that the gas has come, and so we are where we are.
Okay.
So,
Horace, have we gotten to a point where even discussing the current energy crisis has become almost like a cliche? I know that normally, if you want to define a cliche, just a normal saying that has gone stale.
I mean,
but you say that it's just something that has gone stale. So is it even not worth discussing?
No, it's still worth discussing, because once Demso is with us, we'll be discussing it. I just want us to sort of like look at it from a different kind of view. I mean, not politicizing the whole thing, and making sure that even if you have any ideas to augment whatever government has, yes, bring that on board. Because like you said, and Rodelin agreed, I mean, efforts that we are seeing now is actually to make sure that in future we don't have these things happening. You know, when you travel outside and you go to the UKs, the US and stuff like that, and blah, 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 one of the reasons why you don't find these things is simply because of competition. You understand? Competition. For example, when you go to my place in the UK, what do you call it? My electricity supply is not even from the UK. It's from France. Because I get mine from EDF, and EDF is in France. Are you getting me? Competition. Make sure that certain things are being handled by the private sector.
But we're too socialist in
Azokli is doing very well. I mean, it's private. I mean, give things to the private sector to sort of like run them. You understand? I'm happy you mentioned what? Education as well. You understand? Those who inspect certain areas in education are all from the private sector in these areas that education thrives. You understand? So I have always believed that, and I'll say it again, the player can never ever be the referee. Okay. Let's make sure that certain things we encourage the private sector into going into them. One clear example is revenue generation amongst the local authorities. You understand? There are so many basic things that if we should channel it through the local.
That's why now we have PPPs now.
Yes.
So we need to streamline it and make sure we do it adequately.
It's a good thing.
Okay. Now